Watch your step. There's a bunch of water here.
Oh, where's your wet floor sign? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we got it somewhere. We do have it in the other room. You can pop out and stand over there.
Don't be afraid of water. You got fucking boots on, everyone. Like, let's be real. Hey, there's just a nice California guy for you.
I know. I'm sitting there like, oh, I just don't want to get in Jerry's way, you know? Don't be afraid of water.
All right, let's get this hood open. Just watch your step.
Right?
Does this car have clear flood? Put the park brake on, by the way. You want to check it out? Watch your hands. He's going to see if it has clear flood. Get the hood rod up. Park brake on? Sorry. Nope. You were all the way down, right? Okay, so no clear flood. Let's see if we can find the fuel pump relay. Pop that cover.
Sorry, I'm getting your way again.
It's okay.
Oh, wow, your fuse box actually has, like, information on it. Excuse me, guys. I gotta get...
Oh, it's not a rental?
I was about to say, it's kind of too old for a rental.
Hey, when I worked up in Alaska, they wouldn't rent me a new car. Because we broke too many cars that were new. So Hertz, National, they all talk to each other. I had to get rent-a-wreck. Yep. They did. Well, you may have to run it a little bit, get fuel down. There you go. Good. Yeah. Okay, here's Bob. This, if you're not used to a Bob, gentlemen, this is a Bob, a breakout box. So pin 16, we'll pass this around before we hook it in. And pin 4 is where he would hook his scope in. You're going to do relative compression there at the battery and at the starter. So look at that, hook it into the OBD2 connector where I'm still drying this floor up here.
I would not be surprised if the battery touched that.
Well, especially after you crank the daylight.
Yeah. Well, my dad had it. We put about, 1,000 miles a year on it, maybe. Just that a lot.
Must have a lot of snow underneath it or something.
Yeah.
No, because I came out and I actually cleaned this whole area up twice already. It just kind of keeps low.
Sucks. Usually, we'll use a vacuum or whatever.
Same here, and you just, it just has no amount of time. That's just it, son.
That's 10,000 miles full left side.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good question. 4 and 16 is for every OBD2 vehicle. That is the power and ground. There's absolutely no difference. Doesn't matter if we're on a Mercedes, we're on a Hyundai, Kia, which we're on.
What?
So, do I get one of those protective faces on your website?
Yeah, they're on the website.
Sorry, we cleaned the top of the car off really good before we pulled it in.
Yeah, this time of year, it's a little, just don't want anyone to fall on our ass.
It's funny though.
Well, that's not gonna happen.
Then you both do that inverted, but you know,
They're not allowed floor drains down here.
Oh, no, floor drains, that's the law.
Oh, really? Well, they haven't had.
You can't have EPA kill you.
It's like, I thought Massachusetts.
To get these lifts in the ground, these are all on vegetable oil.
Oh, yeah?
They're special vegetable oil. You need approval of the S. This has a big cartridge that if there's any leak, there's a pump out. Yeah, you can't have anything.
So let's say if your shop is grandfathered with the drain, you able to keep it, you got closed up.
Plug it up. I had shops with the drain, had a couple of them. It should be the last time.
What if the drain happens to be in the drainage field?
Now, if you have a drain, here's the rule. If you have a drain and you got a separator tank is gonna, basically, any oils or gas are basically gonna go through a big tank that separates it, has to be approved.
Can you burn waste oil here?
No, radiant heat.
Can you burn waste oil?
You can with approval.
you got like.
Okay.
Scan, like the generic stuff.
So let's put this in a safe place, top of the store. All right, so you crank it already?
No, not yet.
You want to crank it so we're in? So look at this, and I don't know what Josh is.
Right here.
All right. You want to look at this over here, Josh? or what?
Yep. I was just trying to get everything live.
So let me know when you're ready.
Give it about 10 seconds here. We are live on the top one, and another, we're live on the other.
Okay. So we're in pin 16. We see our battery voltage is about 1240, 12.4. And we're in chassis ground at pin 4. Okay. So now we're going to crank the vehicle over. We're going to look at the scope. Okay. So we're in pin 16. We see our battery voltage is about 1240, 12.4. And we're in chassis ground at pin 4. Okay. So now we're going to crank the vehicle over. We're going to look at the scope.
How long do you want to crank it for?
Oh, we'll tell you.
Sorry, guys.
That's all right.
Behind you here.
Kill it. Now the reason why, good, stop. The reason why you see the big spike at first, if we measured it out, that's going to be the amperage. So let's blow that up a little bit, just the big spike, the big spike. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to move this first. We're in, so I'm going to pan it just to show you. When we started down here, you see that big spike? That is going to be our amperage. But you notice the motor made a noise right here? And that's why I'm not using that as relative compression. I'm going to skip that. Now I'm going to do the zoom window. And there's my relative compression. Okay. So they're even in between. The humps are high, same height. Now don't go, oh, that one's a little high, that's a little lower. That's not where you're going to have a problem. Now this is for mechanical problems on a motor. That's what you're doing here. If you see one of these is way out of whack, and remind me tomorrow, I will show you some, take it off a snap-on or whatever, or if an e-scope. You're going to have one of these that are going to be very big or very down. You're not going to have this even space. You see how my finger's fitting in? You guys behind me, don't bend me over. Don't look at that, right?
Don't drop the soap.
We're not worried about any anomalies. We're worried about, is it the same amount everywhere, right? So now we did this from the bob. Let's take it off the bob and do it from the battery. Then we'll do it with an amp clamp. We need this big amp clamp. That's going to be cleaner. Watch the wire, watch the water.
So this is on battery voltage, correct?
This is battery voltage, AC voltage you're basically looking at. AC rides on diesel.
So Dave, for pin 16 and 4, that would be good only for like a
You want a couple of
relative
clamps?
compression test?
16 and 4
Yeah.
would be for the compression test. Here's
Yeah.
your leads.
Is that the only thing you would use that for, or?
Well, 16 is your battery power, 4 is
Right.
ground.
Okay.
Now, when you're on that, Bob, you're not going to use that only for that. We can look at CAN bus data, which we'll look at later.
If you can't get to the negative, really,
You can use the positive.
with the whole wire.
Yeah, you want to go around the whole wire. If you can move past the sheathing, it'll be okay. And if it's upside down, we'll play with it later.
Does it really matter how close to the starter you are?
Good question. Does it matter how close to the starter? No. So what he's doing, he's going to set up. What are you doing on channel 1 or 2?
I'm gonna do it on channel 1.
Okay, so first we're going to do amperage, then we'll go back to voltage on the battery. So we're shutting the channel off, put it back on. Make sure the clamp is on. And now when we crank it over, we're going to get a cleaner signal than before. So try cranking it over. Get this out of the way. You got extra batteries, I hope, for that, right?
I've used it for like 2 months and haven't died.
You got to buy batteries. Okay. I think 4A, because ours have run out.
Really?
Ready?
Go ahead. Kill it.
It makes a lot of noise, right? Something look right. What I do wrong?
Let's see if there's anything.
Do I have to ground it?
Oh, yeah. Always got a ground scope. Okay. So,
That's okay.
yeah, by the way, when you're using the scope, we always have to have the ground on the scope. So we're going to have to do it again. And by the way, when you hear that extra kick, we don't count that because it's going to change that reading. There's always a little gas that comes up there. Good. Good. Kill it.
It's on
We're
the
not
battery.
definitely not getting a good reading there.
You might have to
scrape
the ground a little bit to get that contact.
0.
You know what?
I got maybe 12 around there.
Usually doesn't matter, but that sometimes the shielding, even with this, may not pick it up. Let me see if I can get this down in here. Yeah, I don't want to drop the pen down there.
Channel 1's on 600.
Okay. I think.
Jeff
got
always tells me to do it on 20, even if I got the bigger.
Yeah, you have to use with the 600 amps for bigger stars. Because if not, it's not gonna. It'll work, but it ain't gonna read right. It'll read weird.
Okay, go ahead. Good. Yeah, don't look like-
The pen's up top if you want to use it.
Yeah, that's definitely not right. Anyone got their phone or light to make sure this drawer is closed?
You just
For the folks online, sorry for the shaking. I'm literally holding you guys up in my hands.
Oh, hey, you're only showing one channel.
Yeah,
You're not
that's
showing both.
Well, that's
Yeah, we're only trying to show the up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're lit up on that. That's the channel you're on. So.
Not closed. It's too tight here. It looks like close. I know that's close on one.
Here's your time to shine, Doc.
That's it, right?
I have to pull out the bad wood curry.
That's it. Is that amp clamp? It's got the 4mm bananas on it, right? Or is it
It's BNC, I think.
BNC?
Yeah, it's being said.
I have an adapter. I just didn't bring it.
Oh, you got a BNC to banana?
Mm-hmm.
You might have some.
I'm sure of it.
Okay, let's try that. I think I got it close. Grounded. Go.
Picking a 0.
You're picking up a lot of noise. A lot of noise. Even with ignition on.
That is a hell of a lot of noise. Usually this works real good. Yeah, that would not be real good at all. Unless there's a connection problem here, this is definitely a ground. Wrong channel. That'll do it.
I've done. Well, you did that earlier, remember? At the end too.
Yeah, I did it like 7 times with that.
Oh, it's
Let's keep it real.
There you go. Usually it's going to be a lot cleaner. Let's just, wires all get tangled here. Let's just make sure that this is your ground wire.
Yeah, that's the red lead, and the yellow is channel 1 that I took off.
Hey, this is realistic.
Well, first of all, anytime you do
Right.
anything live,
Yeah.
just
Universe.
like when you do any webinars, stuff happens just like it's going to happen in your shop.
That's it.
Murphy's Law, right? All right, let's try it. There we go. Good.
Yay, wait,
So now,
Sure.
What was the thing?
Being on the right channel.
he was on the wrong channel.
Plugged in the lead into the
Oh,
wrong
I see.
one,
And the other one was off. And it wasn't
Oh,
showing.
it's going
I see.
negative. I'm like, wait, why is it pulling it to ground? Yes, it look really
Okay. So now you can see, again, it's maybe cleaner and it's in between. And the reason why you're picking up, remember, this is a big magnetic setup. Now, sometimes it'll draw better than others, okay? But right now, that's the way it looks on this scope. That make sense? I don't care about any of the hashes, why I don't even use the amp clamp. We're gonna go back to channel 1, switch this back. We're gonna go on the battery, just like we did from the Bob. I'm gonna turn the amp clamp off. And the first peak was our maximum starter draw. So if I want to go back, hang on 1 second. You see the peak like right there, but because, and there'd be your maximum peak.
I save every file before I start manipulating it because otherwise, if you don't save it, sometimes you can't go back.
You're right.
Or it'll manipulate it really weird.
Yeah, don't manipulate it till you save it. So right here, our first peak, and you notice the clamp was backwards. That would be our maximum amperage, because I didn't invert. I mean, you can invert it by hitting invert, right? But you can see it's not 100% accurate because we had some fuel still in there that kicked. That's what this bump is right here. These are all even without you blowing it up, without me going too crazy here. I can see that I got pretty good. If not, He would have either one higher, lower, wider.
What's the milliseconds per division there?
There's no time set here.
No time set.
One good thing with the E-scope, we don't have to, if I went into scope, now I gotta set up all that, okay? Because that'd be like a regular scope, I need to know what the setting is. That's the beauty of deep record,
Mm.
okay?
How long can that go?
As long as you got the buffer in there.
There's a setting on there, and I think it's 20 seconds.
Well,
To start,
the fastest
default.
speed, but you'll keep rolling,
Okay, right.
okay? So if you have the settings too slow, you may not catch a glitch. So also when you go in here, he has this set up here without my glasses, I think on 1 and 2 channels. He's in microseconds, right? Yeah, he's in microseconds. So you can go from, who has better eyes than me?
You can go from 125 microseconds from channel 1 through 8, channel 1 through 4, 250 microseconds, and I'm on channel 1 and 2, 500 microseconds. Oh, my bad, I'm reading it wrong. Yeah, I don't know, I'm right.
Yes, those are
So
microseconds.
there's different settings. And now you can set it up for the AC voltage. Now the AC voltage is gonna be the easiest thing. You're not putting out extra components. You ain't doing anything. So whether you're using Snap-on or you're using E-scope or Pico, whatever your favorite scope is. By the way, the new Auto scope is pretty bitchin'. It is pretty good. I did a webinar and used it in it, and I was pretty impressed with it. Oh, it'll just pick it up. Yeah, you can't do it. Just play it.
I got it on 20 volts.
Okay. So let's start deep record. Crank it over.
Trying to find one of those cases.
Oh,
I really like the lifts in the ground. You know, you don't ding the door up all the time.
But you could see when he opened the
Blow it
door.
up.
You could see when he opened the door.
Oh.
That's cool.
I mean, I think that looks better than a clamp. Or about the same, right?
and that was on AC voltage?
It'll switch it over to AC, yeah. AC rides on DC. Okay. So right there, go ahead.
I'm sorry, how can you tell which cylinder is 1, 2, and 3?
Oh, so that's a good question. We are not synced to anything. If I sync to number 1 ignition, which I have to take stuff off, but here's the real world. I have to tell the customer they got an engine problem or not before I move forward. If I see I have something there, now I got to get more diagnostic time. So then I'm going to sync to number 1, and being a 4-banger 1, 3, 4, 2, I then confirm what cylinders in. Then I'm going to take my pressure transducer out and go in the hole and find out what in the world is wrong. So, okay, because remember, hold your thought 1 second.
Yep.
This is not for ignition. Don't tell me, hey, gee, I did that, didn't find a bad coil, bad wire. No, it should not. It is not for ignition of fuel. It's only mechanical. Because what you're doing is every time the starter is going around, that is a voltage drop. Whether we did it on the Bob, whether we do it right here. Does that make sense, Everett? Your question.
So it's kind of going off what you just said. So this particular test, you're just an AC voltage hooked up to both the battery terminals, and this is going to be like a quick relative compression test, is what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay, and you would want that now that you can only do that while you're in AC voltage, or is that something you
It's
can do?
better
with
if you
AC?
do it on AC voltage. This scope kind
More
of
accurate?
just gets it pretty quickly.
Oh, okay, wonderful.
But if you're on Snap-on,
Yep.
if we take the Snap-on scope out, I have to couple it to AC voltage to get a good read.
Oh, okay, and let's say like cylinder 3 is like, you know, about a push through the wall. Like one of these guys, would you have a significant dip in it, correct? Like where you'd see.
Definitely.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, maybe I should pull that up. Let me go in there in a second, just to pull
Like
that
that
up.
one cylinder would speed it up and then slow it down.
Yeah, right. So
'Cause-
it would just be anything would be like, you know, messing up the wave.
Right, because the cylinder that's low on compression doesn't require as much amperage for that starter to turn it over. So there's always at least one cylinder compressing, and then
and wherever.
It does save you a lot of time, bro.
Well,
It
yeah.
saves you a lot.
Just like a relative,
Especially if you do
idea.
ignition sync. If you like, for example, my bad to cut you off.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
But if you like hook up to the car, you got 7 to 3 misfire. Well, you do a quick ignition sync with rotate compression, you already know that you have spark, so then the coil is working, and then you'll check your compression at the same time. So then you just knocked out your ignition coil, your PCM, and your compression. So what's left next to do is just check your. Obviously, you can't check secondary ignition. On some coils, depending on the car, they won't let you see secondary ignition. So then you have to just check your secondary ignition and your fuel injector.
Well, right. So clamping on, to the spark plug wire is easy. Right, it's the easiest
Josh,
thing
can
to
you
do,
get a
so
discount
that's
on
what
the
they usually have to do.
Of the TST seminars.
You can now go for the injector.
Yeah, so like when you're doing an injector with that scope, what do you back probe the injector?
Yep.
Yeah, he back probe the injector.
And I'm pretty sure it doesn't matter which side you get.
Gentlemen, walk in here, please. Let's go. So you're plugging into a diagnostic link connector, and basically you got 137, 265, 48 fire in order on this 4.6 or 5.4 motor. And you notice, if you know, Ford has 1, 2, 3, 4 on one side. We got cylinder 7, that's the left side, driver side. Cylinder 6, problem, driver side. Cylinder 5, driver side. Cylinder 8, driver side. Right there, the relative compression is telling me what? What do you think you got wrong here?
Cam timing.
You got what?
Cam timing.
Cam timing on one bank. This is where a chain went bad, or a phaser went bad, and the chain skipped. Now, you got a question?
No,
Ask.
no, I'm alright,
Okay. It's mine.
So the Ford doesn't fire on opposite bank every time?
Cylinder 1, 2, 3, 4 on one bank. What in the world is this stupid?
Sorry, guys. Moving around.
Are the Fords batch fired on ignition?
Let's not worry about that. We're talking about mechanical. Oh.
Why is chat disabled?
Okay. So here's Toyota Tech Stream. Toyota's Tech Stream, you see all these RPM drops? This is a superimposed line of every one of these colors. If I had a cylinder difference, I would see the line break away from it. Not as nice as the Ford setup, right? And here we also have, Sean, why don't you come in? Tell the other guy to move his ass over.
Pardon me.
Here we got relative compression only on a Ford from an OTC tool. Okay, so Bosch OTC. You can see one cylinder's a little down, but a 15% difference would give us an indication of a problem. Here's the eScan. eScan works on all cars from the OBD2 connector. Doesn't give you the fire in order, but you can see number one, we didn't go into 10.1, so we're good. You can see that we identified a cylinder with a problem. This is actually the voltage, as you can see, dropping. It's doing a voltage drop from the diagnostic link connector. That's why if you have eScope Elite is the way to go. Okay, and if you don't have it, if you're a TST member, or you want to become one for $75, what you save being a TST member, 12% off the price, it pays the $75 and more. Here it is off an old Fluke 98 with a problem where you could see we have about 15% different on these bar graphs here. 3 companies did bar graphs on scopes. You have my old Vitronics 51 and 5200 scope. You have the OTC/Intero scope and Fluke. They were the only companies that built it into a scope. Here is a scope meter. Now, this is after the repair. This is AC voltage. You see AC above and below. Here's the car before. Do you see the difference what I was talking about?
Yes.
Does everyone see right here you got a problem? Why? It's not the same width. Right there you got a problem, not the same width. Look at this. This is off of Snap-on at the time. Modus. 1, 3, 4, 2. 1, 3, 4, 2. Can you see the difference in the spacing there? Okay, may not look pretty. This is on AC voltage. I'm on 200 millivolts per division or 2 volts per screen, 1 second of sweep time. Okay, and right there you can see the time base. Here on a newer Snap-on scope, look at this difference. Right away you go, hey, that looks like the odd man out. No crap, you got a problem there. Here, same car fix. Here you got Pico on my Pico scope. Here's my amperage. So see here on this car, that's roughly about 60 amps with the solenoid. We go up, we're roughly about 300, maybe 400 amps there. We come down, and right here we're roughly about 140, so about 150-ish or so. And you notice all the rest of the humps. So you're doing 2 things at once here. You're checking current drawer to starter, and you're checking all the amperage. Questions, gentlemen?
And when you do have like one of those dips when you're just doing like the compression, what do you think like the most common problem would be when it,
Oh, you mean like this, where the problem is?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Who knows? It could be anything from a valve issue, carbon buildup.
Oh, okay.
Would be the number one thing I look at. We got one from your shop one time that came in, and you guys weren't sure what it was, sent it here, and that one had a valve issue. Okay, now relative compression, a little thing I'm going to show you, doesn't always work. If you got MDS, you guys know what MDS is? Not a disease, monthly displacement. Okay. And DOD, the displacement on demand, if you got some of those type motors, it's not as accurate. Here, I'm in the Bob. What pin am I in? 16. This is another one of my Bobs and 4, 16 and 4. And look at this. Do I have an engine problem? Right from the driver's seat. My fat ass didn't even have to get out. Back then I wasn't fat. But all I had to do is clear flood it. Notice I have a scan tool hooked up to it as well. So I can do 2 things with my Bob. Right there, I know right away, without lifting the hood, I don't have a mechanical issue with this motor, because this is a non-DOD. Got to know the motor you're working on. Newer profile, it's not 100%. It's probably high 80s, maybe 90, 92, somewhere in that range. Now, look at this. This is a Hemi with 112,000 miles on it. Are we under 15% anywhere? No. Now, watch this carefully.
2011, 5.7.
Now, you see the valve just moving a little bit? I'm sorry about the bad video. My knees were killing me up on the car. So you see how it pumps just a little bit? We had great compression on this, both with Snap-on compression gauge and Mac. By the way, when you do a compression test, not to be in a thing, it's going to tell you how many times you can actually crank it over for the needle to move. We did it by the spec, it met the spec. We did cylinder leakage. We took the plug out and we put air in there on top dead. Nothing leaking out. Because cranking compression is for engine sealant. Okay, running compressions for volumetric efficiency. So we ran it with the compression gauge in the cylinder, with the hose, with the Schrader taken out. We kept burping it. And what we seen was it looked pretty damn good. Roughly about 60 to 70 pounds. It wasn't until we put a pressure transducer in, and you can see here's the MDS solenoids. They go bad quite a bit. Look at the roller. By the way, the one we just did, same problem. Look at this. You see how sharp this is back here? You see how thin that is? That'll cut a piece of paper. Actually cut my finger on one of them. Not this particular car or truck.
Do you find it on a consistent cylinder, or is it on any of them?
Number 5 cylinder seems to be the most. 5, 7, and 3 are probably the biggest culprits. But we have had them on 6 and 4, I think. But that seems to be the most. Camshafts went up for $78 to over $400. And there used to be a $200 core fee to down to a $100 core fee. So you got to give them the old cam back, which is kind of moronic. Like, what are you going to do with this? There's a class action lawsuit going on. Okay, so that's the problem. Look at how this thing is white, and look how the metal is breaking down. You get any of these cars that have DOD or MDS, like in this case, multi-displacement system, you must make sure you use synthetic oil and exchange it every 5 grand. Or they'll be running in, we've had some of these cars as low as 60-something thousand. Okay. And by the way, they don't have cam bearings. You got to change the whole block. So it's not going to be great. There's the new cam. Here's the old cam. And again, you can start to see how the metal is fatiguing. Okay. All right, that's enough there. I just wanted to show you that so you had a good visual. Let's go back out there.
All right, folks, hold on a moment. We're going to set you back up here.
So is this your Fugo?
Now it is, but then Pico's a little weak, a little
Okay, so our next step we're going to do is we're going to check the battery. So, hook up, and then you can get the leads to go right in the car. We can take the leads off the scope. Let me get the other unit as well. Just watch where you're stepping.
Boy, that snap-on one sure is pretty. I don't know. I wonder what that-
Yeah, since we carry interstate batteries, they give us actually pretty cool to test it. It's not always like guaranteed, you know, like.
I did, but I don't
Make sure
have
you're on
one.
a good battery,
I like
like what Jerry was saying, because like we'll
Oh,
get
yeah,
saying
small,
batteries,
small,
okay,
yeah.
it's good, because the experiences, you know, we do keep them up. So it's.
Thing is, you got to check accuracy against whatever. There's a lot of these different tools out that are connecting to different components, whether it be a scan tool or a tablet. You need to check that it's accurate. So this thing here that he has, then we'll use this one. We want a couple of you guys to try it. You'll be doing this one next. Tell us what it's actually saying.
voltmeters, 12.553 volts.
Okay? Don't we want to do a whole test with this? So how do we get into the test?
Here. In vehicle,
Okay, we want to do it's in vehicle,
top post,
top post.
automotive,
Yep.
and some regular flooded,
Right, regular flooded because it's not an AGM.
total cranking amps,
Now, sometimes it's a pain in the butt to see. 600 CCA. So he's going to pick 600 CCA.
and above 32,
Right, it's going to ask you the temperature. Is it above 32 degrees?
Yeah,
and good recharge. It's good recharge.
So now it tells us the battery is too low, we need a recharge. You see that charger right there? We're gonna hook that up in a minute. To show you, you're gonna take your scope and you're gonna take one of your meters to see if the battery charger is good or not. So when you get back to your shop, you can see if you got a good or bad charger. Because remember, AC rides on DC. If you notice that charger, it's one of 3 that we have. The newer version's over there. But there is something on there called maintain. That is going to be different than we hit charge. When I hit charge, it's going to put out more AC voltage. Okay. So let's skip that step and make believe we did it and go on and see the starting test. See if you can run by it. Now make sure the key is off. By the way, never pull out. Okay, do not pull out or put in with a key on or power off. Good way to spike stuff. Okay, you ready to crank it over?
Scoot over.
Mind you what?
No, yeah, there you go. Now what are we doing here?
We're doing battery starter alternator test. Once we're done with this, we can do with that. Okay, cranking normal, let's do the charging test. So now if we do the charging test, and it's going to tell him, race it up or whatever. If you guys have never done the put loads on, yada, 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 right? Let me put that fan on in the back. So when you start putting blow motor on, and you start putting the rear deflector or high heat on, you put the load on. Remember like we went with the meter? How you can actually do it? Now he wants to rev it with the load on and check it out. Right. So the reason why the rev is not connected because there's four connected. So you guys hear that? Most of the time, print that report. When you get rev not detected, you've got to scrape in those cables. So I'm going to show you how to scrape in. You just place them on there. Not the right way to do it.
Problems is they're huge, they're ginormous, so a lot of these newer cars, you can't even get the
No problem. It's printed or not. So now you're going to get a report out. I'm going to pass this around. And how long did it take you to do the test? It tells me here that it's 12.5 volts, good but recharge, 519 CCA should be 6. Regular flooded in vehicle. Starter went down to 11.1. Are we good on that? What was the lowest? 10.1. Right? Charging, no problem. No loads, 14.3. Loads, 14.2. Take a look at it. You're up next with that. So when you put clamps on, okay, first thing, negative should go on first, and you scrape. Do a little scraping action, right? Next thing, you put this on. When you take off, you take negative first. When you go on, negative on first, negative off first. So now you put this thing on. There we go. This one is not as finicky, not as expensive, and it'll do a good job. So it's, if you're looking at it, it's pretty self-intuitive.
You know how much I would rent
That, I don't remember, but I think it's like under 500. Now, by the way, you do this if our apprentice wasn't sick. we have them do this on all the cars and print it out and give it to a customer. Even if it's good. You know why? If it's good now, next time they come back for an oil change, the tires, whatever the case may be, excuse me, now they see it's bad. You think you're going to get it fixed? Yeah. They gave them maybe 3 times it was good. Now it's bad.
Let me get my next one. So 600 full frequency.
When you're done.
Like
You're done?
502, yeah.
Oh, okay.
4.93 volts.
Okay. So basically, and you can do the starter test. You all got that? Anyone want to play with this? To play with the other one? You feel like you got it? So now, how do we do this with the meter? How do we do this with the meter? Or we're going to use the Curian there, Mr. Josh?
Yeah, just a second, and there you go. So for the N2, it's not going to give you a printout yet. Eventually, as we update the software and the tests, we will be providing you guys a system report, very similarly.
So now you have this capability because you got the tablet, you got the N2, right?
That's it. And just as you guys saw in the class a little bit earlier, how there were the instructions on how to do the whole thing with the multimeter before all the Midtronics and everything else came out, it's going to be the same concept. We've just programmatically added that stuff in here. Now, give me just a moment. I'm going to reconnect to the unit. Throw that guy up there. Make sure I'm on volts. So, for battery, as you guys can see there, we have our battery voltage, or anybody on the screen as well. But with the new software, we're going to be able to go into our system tests. It's the battery system side. And then in this case, we can look at our surface discharge. And right now, oh, you know what, that's incorrect. Surface discharge is for the battery case. If I was to pull out one of my probe tips, we could look at the surface discharge there. Let's see here. We would go into state of charge. That's what I was looking for. And as of right now, he's at 12.84, and the tool literally says you're okay to load test. With that, you can feel comfortable to go on the vehicle and start load testing, or pull out one of the bigger Medtronics or carbon pile test and go with it that way.
Well, remember, put a load test, not to interrupt you guys.
Please, please.
You could do it manually like I showed you with the meter. You got it here. Put on some loads,
That's it.
right? Crank it over, see where you go down to. And if you graph it, you can actually see that. You can sit in the car with your tablet and do it.
That's exactly it. And I am looking for fuel pump relay. I see it
Oh,
there.
someone just took it out before?
Did we just take it out already?
Yeah, I put it back.
But it's back in right now. You want to hang on, make sure the key is off and pull the fuel pump relay out, or you want it in?
Fuel pump relay out.
That was
So key off.
Yeah, key off. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Now, on this case, we're going to go to battery cranking.
Yeah, put that in a safe place.
It says now the tool is actually looking at the voltage, determining whether or not you're in okay state to crank. Would you like to crank over? And because we were running it earlier, there may be fuel left over in there, so go ahead and turn over and we'll let it die out. Okay, and then you want to restart. And hold it for 15 seconds.
But notice we're above 10-1, aren't we, right? And even if you grasp, it's going to be beautiful to see where you're at.
Okay, you're good to go. And so although we did hit down to 10.9, that was quite a bit of a load on there. The system does determine that, hey, that's actually doing okay for the battery. So it gave us an okay.
So now remember, you all have this, and the tests go right in there.
That's exactly it.
Now maybe you people at home don't have it, but
Some of them
maybe you want to
do.
get it.
Yeah. Well, everyone watching should have an M2 at this point. Let's see. So what's left? Okay, so that's it for the battery tests themselves. Now we could test separately later the terminals, the surface discharge, or the cables. But I'll let you take that.
You want to do the charging or not?
Surface discharge? Yeah. I have
Well,
probe
that's
tips.
this charging voltage.
Charging.
Alternate.
Ah. So that
We need
test,
to put the relay back in if the key is off.
yeah. So that test isn't built in here, but we
Oh,
can
okay.
watch it if you wanted.
Sure. Why don't you graph it and show them how we can see the difference?
All right, guys and gals. So
And then I want you
now,
next to do surface test on the battery. Remember what I told you? The case could be actually a problem.
Yeah.
This battery probably.
Yeah, this
needs
looks
service.
like it's gonna have. Yeah, go ahead and bring it over. All right. So right now we're watching battery voltage at 14 volts, and this is actually on a slower time base. We can speed that up if we want.
That's good. You can see it climbing.
Yep, yep.
What voltage we have kind of leveled out there for a second, still going up. That's of course the energy we use to start it up. Remember, if you want to drain your battery down somewhat, you're going to put loads on it. Right?
Yeah, and we were zoomed in pretty high there. You know, shut it off and turn it back on again. So you're going to be able to see it drop back down.
So look where the voltage went down. You see that? So now you're doing two tests in one, and you can definitely see that. Did we go under 10.1, and where are we charging at now? Make sense? Yeah. Sometimes the graph is worth a gazillion words. It really is.
Exactly. And
Cool.
then, there you go.
Very good. All right.
All right, guys.
Kill that thing. Do the meter test.
That's mine right
Yeah, you can do it as well. Mostly new cars. I'd say since the pandemic, we get some older cars because people you're going to be paying $15,000+ for stickers. They got a lot of So one of our tool guys comes up your way, Danny. Can you listen to him?
Oh, Danny, I owe money. I had a big problem with Danny where I canceled one of his charges, but I didn't realize it was an account. Now I'm dealing with the bank and going there money.
But anyway, Danny needs a new van, right? He looked all over. One place had it, they wanted 15 or 16 grand over in one side. You could order one and you get a discount. But you gotta wait $6.
We're doing down there. Carvana's buying all everything for over the amount, and then just jacking up people are buying.
Right now, used cars, the used car lot we do right now in the street here near the Ford dealer, and he's banging it out.
Yep.
Okay, so now go to the battery post, and we get ready. Now, what did I say was the next step to test the battery case?
The battery case.
All right, take the red lead and go to the top of the battery. You'll read it 13 volts, hold it down. Let me see, your hand's right in my way. You got a 2-point-something volt voltage drop. Moving around and hold it down tight. Move the red lead around and hold it on the case. 5-volt voltage drop. So if you go like this, don't be a pussy. You gotta go like this.
See, first it was water, now it's the.
Okay. See that? That's our voltage drop. Yeah. This battery needs servicing. So if you simply do this test and you're getting voltage readings like 5 volts. See this? This case needs to be clean. Does that make sense? Is this a hard test to do? You do it on every car. You pop in and do it. So every car you go to, you do it. Then we have like that battery protector spray. See the little CRC can there? That's the battery protector spray. The red stuff, you clean it all down. See that 5 volts that you got? You get over the 12 volts, it's not service charge. This is basically the battery has been gassing, it's coming out, and all of that is starting to make a connection on top of the battery. The battery needs to be cleaned down. What did I say is the best way? Hot water. Okay. And then make sure there's no computer or anything underneath. If it is, get all clear water coming out, blow it dry, face shield, like face shield there, there's usually one here, and one down the other. Okay. Same pretty much setup. Easy enough to do, right? Now, let's move your scope. What's his name? Somebody tell you. Thurman, could you move your scope so no one breaks it? I want to show you something, and I'm going to use you. Okay. Go to the battery first, please. Now, rubber is an insulator, isn't it?
Yeah, they say.
You sure about that? By the way, you have any special stuff, radio drones and stuff to care about? All right. So it's reading 12 volts. If I touch the engine, please touch the engine block. Pay attention, gentlemen. Scrape it into the engine block. He's not reading anything, right? Millivolts. Touch the rubber hose all the way back here. All the way back here. Don't poke into the, you're going to have to squeeze down a little bit more. It doesn't have electrolysis going on. Let me try that there if you don't mind.
Yeah. I know you just said the last guy got punched in the face.
Take this lead and go there with the black lead. Press down. 6 volts. That hose is able. Now we ain't faking that, right? We ain't even holding that down tight on that rubber. This way. So when you think rubber is a great conductor or insulator, sometimes it conducts. Okay. Now the other thing we need to do, I don't know if that radiator's hot or not. I'll do that. Let me get a rag.
So you're finding that that's conductive, but what is it that we just identified with that test?
They have a problem where the hose is permeated with metal and stuff, and the rubber is not a good insulator. How many guys have seen silicone hoses on cars, or a rubber hose you buy from Gates, or one of the big ones has a thing that says ESD, electronic static discharge? That hose is a different material that has more silicone in it, not rubber. That way you wouldn't get this reading.
Now for that test, you do it from the positive to the positive lead on the positive post.
Yeah. Now you could also do this at the radiator. If you go like this and put this in, do not touch the radiator. You can see what type of reading you may get or not get.
Holy crap.
13 volts.
So you guys do that
They pull that down so they can see a little bit.
You guys do that
Now, I'm going to tell you this.
Perfect.
This is the wrong way to do this. Put this negative, give me the red lead, and now if you get a voltage reading in your antifreeze, you got a problem. More than a few hundred millivolts.
Oh boy.
And he does.
What do you got?
299. Yep. Show the camera. Show the guys. Be Vanna White. Hold it up. Now, I am not touching the radiator at any point. I'm just in the antifreeze.
And what is this identifying?
Now, what you're doing is you're seeing that this antifreeze is contaminated. You ever get a heater core or a radiator that keeps going out? Freeze out plugs, you got a problem here. You got to neutralize the system by flushing it properly. Because the electricity is starting to go in there. You ever take a water pump out and all the fins on the water pump were like, it looks like someone shaved them down? You got a bad ground on that motor. Does that make sense?
Hey, you guys got some good free work at diagnostic work for your car.
All I had to pay was $1,000.
Okay, next.
So you only gonna see that with the negative lead, the positive lead side.
Right. Negative lead stays on. There's no. The coolant flushes are optional. Keys off. Now, remember, let's do this test one more time. Come here with your meter. and go to the block. I'll hold one side here. First, let's baseline it, positive and negative. I'll hold you negative. This is going to go positive to. Everyone sees that 12.8. Let me hold it. Right? Good. Camera.
Yeah, we're good. 12.8.
All good?
Almost fell, bro.
Touch the motor. Nothing, right? All good? You guys see that behind me? Yeah. All good? Camera good?
Good.
Okay, now, we're going to stay on this negative post once I pull this off. I'm going to come back to it. He's going to stay right where he is. Here is a huge voltage drop that you're going to see.
Well, he didn't need his memory anyways.
I asked him already.
Goddamn won't be able to listen to Katy Perry on the way home.
Oh, he's got that on CD.
He's on ground, isn't he? He's on ground. How much am I reading? He's on ground.
11.45.
How the hell is that? How's that motor 11.45? Gentlemen, this is VD. I'm going to go in and get that variable resistor box.
There's no ground cable hooked up to the vehicle.
Right. So this is, remember the example I gave you on Ford? Remember how that car had 12 volts? Go in there, if we took a test light, it'll light up right now on that. If you don't have a ground or you got DD, the cable is corroded, you're going to get this. This would be a no-start condition. His lights wouldn't work. But once I start changing resistance here, then I can see I've been making a connection. So let me get that box so you can see. Try it with your meter. Careful with the water.
That's what the trailer guys do. In that shops, yeah, they got all the lights on them, you know, all the time. So the first thing is if there's ever a light out or something electrical problem, they always put the meter right, or the test light right on it. If it lights up, they know that power shorting to yeah, I thought it was cool.
Okay, so what I'm going to do here is we're going to take one lead, put your meter on, let's go. What do you have to do? Negative here. Go to the engine. Give me the negative lead in here. In the clip, not in the wrench. Okay. So now, how much voltage is he reading? Someone take the meter so everyone can see it. Okay. So we're reading 12 volts. You weren't straight in enough, but you should read about 12 volts. What's going to happen now? What's going on? Is that unlocked? Oh, there you go.
Wow, he was like another.
Plus it's not coming down more. There you go. You see that's dropping as I'm adding more resistance? And by the way, this is getting hot. So now we're down to 11 something. So if we have different resistance going through, rather than 12, we drop it. Does that make sense? So if you had, let's say, 50 strands on the cable, and the cable was starting to get corroded, rather than 50, maybe only 38 were doing it. What's going to happen? You're going to start seeing maybe you got 1 volt there, then 2 volts. And obviously when you get open circuit like I am here, you're going to have the whole shoot match. Everyone understand this? This is important to get in your head what a voltage drop actually is. So how am I getting 12 volts on the ground?
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Explain to me. Explain to me. One at a time, explain. He's talking now, you go next, then you go. And I'm going to tell you if you're right or wrong. Explain to me, Lucy.
Honestly don't know.
Okay, it's okay.
I'm thinking about it. Honestly don't know.
Who was next? You or him?
Everything's on the same circuit. Everything touches.
Not good.
It's trying to close.
Well, explain the whole thing. It's trying to close, but
it's trying to close. It's trying to look for the negative. You can start off even with the positive wire going straight to the starter. And pretty much your starter is powered up, and the winding side is all positive.
not a good explanation.
Quick
Anyone
question.
else want to try?
Or your corrosion on the negative side.
Sorry?
Resistance on the negative side.
Well, we got an open circuit on the side. Anyone else want to try?
That's true.
He has to make a complete 360-degree circle. The positive is already hooked to the battery, hooked to the electrical system. You're hooking the voltmeter between the negative terminal and the negative side of the system, which completes the circuit.
You're close, but let's start with how that's actually happening. If we go on with how the electrons are actually flowing,
From ground.
that is going to make more sense to you. Negative, that leaves the little guys going, hey, here we go. Going through, coming up and around, but they got no home. Their home stops here. So it's happening, all the electrons are flowing, going through the starter, alternator, whatever, coming into the motor, but they can't come back. So that's why that's still live. Anywhere on that circuit we touch, that pump, whatever, everything's going to be live because we're never getting back home here. So remember, voltage is pressure. The electron pressure is going through. It's going around. It's probably 350 degrees. I got the other 10 degrees here in my hand. That make sense? So this is what a lot of people don't get. When you're working on something and you see you got a voltage drop that's supposed to be on the ground, you got something going on here. And in my career, I've come across this multiple times. Again, Ford had a major problem with that. And it's not all the time. You see this here? If you look in, this is an open cable, right? But some of these are closed. The corrosion was going through, going down here, and where it was open on the frame was totally corroded to a no-stop where I had 12 volts. And if you never experienced that, you would go, what the hell is going on here? Why do I have 12 volts? Got to be a short to power somewhere, to shorten your head. You don't understand how electricity works. This is why I'm showing you this. Once you get this in your head, how things work, it's going to be a lot easier to diagnose and fix it. Questions? Does this make a little more sense? Again, electrons flow in the battery, negative to positive. They're going out, but they need to come back home.
To the negative side.
To the negative side. The negative side is the forgotten side that people forget to check. Even when components don't work, whether it's computer components or anything else. Yes, sir.
Oh, nothing. I was drawing in the air and I'm good.
Byron, you all right?
Yeah, I think so. But the 12 volts is going from here over there. Right?
No. Coming from here to there, goes into the starter motor, everything, has to come back to here. But this is open.
Okay.
That's why we're reading that. So you got to get this in your head. If you don't have it, it's okay. Don't be embarrassed. We're in the battery. If the battery's here by itself, you get the positive cable. When you're reading pressure differential, you're reading from the negative post to the positive post. That make sense? Now, we hook it in the car, but we leave the negative cable off. Goes from here into here to the alternator to the starter. Like if you go to the lead lug, which we're going to do a voltage drop on that alternator, looks like we can get to the main wire for VD. Okay? It's going through the whole system, but it needs to return here.
So were we connecting the circuit through the meter alone? That's why we got the battery reading?
You are checking the circuit. Now, you're here on the negative part of the battery,
Yeah.
and you're reading voltage there because it's never returning here.
So it's still in a transitive state.
Let's get your meter. Let's do it again.
Power
It's
is going
never
from the battery
returning
cable
to the end.
to the through the whatever.
That's why voltage is all over the end.
I understand it, but it's hard to explain it.
Voltage is everywhere on this car where it normally be a ground. So when you look at him, there you go, he has his 12 volts there. he could touch that pump at the end. They got a straight one. 12 volts.
It was for a
Straight.
second.
You had it for a second, you know. Close enough. 12.6. So all the electrons are flowing through all this here, but they can't get back. Touch this cable with the red lead. Probably got to scrape it for. Go in here or up top, scrape it. See, I got 12 point something.
It'll throw me off for a minute. Normally when I see it, the battery cable's still connected to the battery. It's just broken somewhere else.
Well, it could be broken. This I'm simulating to get the brain simulated, right? So what I have here is 12.7 volts, and I'm on the frickin' cable end that's disconnected. To show you, now watch what happens. Stay on that. I'm going to put this, someone hold this meter. Byron, you got it? I'm going to pick this up, and we're going to come over, stay with it. Still got 12 volts?
Yep.
Still got 12 volts?
Yeah.
How about now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Blind down.
The 10, 11, 10, none,
Zero.
28. What?
Close to nothing because I made the connection, right? Why? I'm putting the electrons back
No
in the battery.
voltage drop.
So make believe, here's another thing. Make believe I got 10 soldiers. I'm sending 10 soldiers out. Right? None of them are returning. They're still stuck out there. They don't return until I make this connection. So electrons are going out. They can't come back. They're staying here in this cable. And again, you've seen I had 12 volts here, but it ain't connected to the car. Yes, it is. Because negative electrons are flowing from here to where?
To the positive.
The positive and everything into the car. Joe, does that make some sense?
Yeah.
Anyone, again, not sure?
So again, on the battery, the electron flows from negative to positive and out. So it's never from positive to negative.
It's never a positive to negative.
It's always from negative to positive.
Always negative to positive. So people always think the positive side because that's where they think voltage is coming from. They don't understand the chemistry of the battery, the electrolyte and the dissimilar plates, your plate separators, is going to produce voltage, besides store voltage in a battery, and electrons are going to flow negative to positive. That's how it works in a vehicle or in a battery. Chemistry is making electricity. There's static electricity that can be made. There is generated electricity, as we talked about, from the alternator and or a crank sensor or a cam sensor that is AC type sensor, magnetic sensor, right? Make sense? Everyone good? All right, so the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to put this back on, tighten this up, and someone get his fuse box cover back on.
Should we put a fuel pump relay back?
I think it's in there. And make sure it's down all the way.
Yeah.
So there was a client that brought in a vehicle and had a painless wiring harness on it. I was trying
who?
to a painless wiring harness.
Painless? What's painless?
Painful. Painless.
Is that like a brand?
Yeah, it's brandless, painless
okay.
wiring. And I was trying to track down the wire, so I was doing a continuity test, and I noticed on the fuse block that every single fuse was showing a voltage, no matter which lead that I put on there.
Not sure how you're doing this. I'm not sure what that wiring harness is. If I have a wiring harness and I'm checking continuity, okay, well, continuity, I need no power in the system, so I can't see any voltage. That make sense? So if you were doing it and trying to find voltage, and it shouldn't have voltage when using your meter, we never use an ohm meter on continuity.
Okay,
That's probably where you messed up.
that's what I'm.
Now, if I want to check wiring, and we've had some doozies in here, where some idiots cut wiring harnesses up and mess crap up. We had one recently. Body shop buys a new harness for a Honda. Rather than putting the whole harness in, they cut it, splice it, tape it all up. Look, you couldn't tell because it was all dirty. They had it laying around for a while. They drove it. And the harness had the sheathing on it all the way. we start looking at it and it's not making sense. You're getting the code, so I said to Bill, you got to cut that sucker open. You got to trace those wires back. And how are we going to do that? These wires will go into the computer. You take a power probe or jumper leads or whatever that other thing is called. We go from the wire here. So let's say I unplug it. He's my pin. You're the computer pin. I unplug you. I'm putting the power probe here, putting my meter on touch hole or the N2 on graphing. I put 12 volts in this wire. I am not connected to the computer. Does that make sense? If this wire that I put 12 volts on is not showing me 12 volts all the way at the computer, disconnected from the computer again. That wire has a problem. Let's say I get 8 volts. That wire has voltage drop. Let's say you get 0 volts. That wire has an open. That's how you're going to check a wire out, by putting it under pressure, right? That's what you're doing to make sure it works. So if I have something where I got voltage up here, but I ain't getting something to the back, I got to disconnect. Never on today's vehicle, never ever put any power or ground. Either one could burn something out real bad. Does that make sense? So we're going to make sure we understand what wire it is. And by the way, let's say there's 4 wires in this harness. There'll be more, but I'm using 4. You may have a short to power. So what I do is put power, let's say, through wire number 1. When I go to the back, did I get power? Yes. Number 2 has 0. Number 3 has 0. Number 4, I got 12 volts. Wires are short. Should have nothing here. Why? I'm not on pin 4. That make sense? So that's how you do it. I remember we had one that was butchered up from one of my students up in the Middletown area. He brought it down. It was to a couple of shops. He had it. And Mike has been a good student for years. Been coming here for years. He's like, this thing's over there. They put so much into this freaking vehicle, the scary. It was a nightmare Nissan. We had to open it up, and he bought wiring harnesses. We found multiple places that there were problems with wires that rubbed or cut. And the exact method I'm telling you, I showed one of my guys at the time that was actually working for my son. He was one of my students working for my son. And I said, Alex, here's how you got to do this. And better people than him, he was a younger guy, better people than him worked on his car, couldn't find problems. I showed him the technique we're talking about. And I said, I'm not going to stay here babysitting you. I showed him and I said, show me. He did some. Now you're talking about maybe 50 plus wires going back there. I said, you're going to find one of these that are a problem. Found multiple ones that were a problem. And then you got to go down. So let's say you got no power on this wire going all the way back to this van. It was a Nissan van. What I'm going to need to do is get back and find out I had no power, but I got power here. I'm going to use something like this called the Hickman or Hitchman probe. So here's the burning thing. I want you to all look at that needle. It's about a little bigger than my deck. Okay, we wake you up that night, right?
All right. It's all good. There's only like.
If they can't take the dick word.
It's bleak down. It's bleak.
Now, this is expensive. Let me put this wrench back. This thing is probably like 50, 60 bucks. This is called the Hickman probe, Fluke or Pomona. You can see the difference already, right?
Yep.
Now, I'm going to explain to you what happens on a good wire. Now, it's real small. Is that the size of your deck?
Lower. There. Good.
So, this, on a good wire, when I pierce into a wire like this, and I don't like piercing, you should all have liquid tape. You can buy that at Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever. You put this in there, and when I do this, on a wire that's not brittle under the car, you give it a little, you're in the wire and I can get a reading. When you pull it out, you won't find that hole on a good wire because the rubber will seal itself up. When you go in, and we'll talk about what that is in a minute, you go in with something big, even one of my Bernie pins, this is for back probing, you go in with this may make a hole that's too big, and you may break a strand of wire. So if there's 10 strands of wire, you just made a leak like in a water hose that is not going to deliver the same amount of current to Byron. That make sense? By the way, who's going to tell me what that thing is and why would I have that?
Piercing proof?
No, that is the other thing. This is important to buy one of these, at least one. It will set you back, Fluke or Pomona, because they own it. Don't buy some cheap brand. This is a way, like sometimes you back probe a wire with a weather pack and you can't get a reading. When I pull this out. And if you have liquid tape or vulcanizing tape, the 3M vulcanizing tape, which I'll show you tomorrow, you should have that in your shop. You get it on, it's like a vulcanizer patch. You can't get the damn thing off. You'd have to raise a blade, peel, and try to get it off. Yeah, it really sticks. Any questions on this stuff?
So are you back piercing? Or
This is going right into a wire. This is back probing.
do you pierce or probe with your first one?
I just said if I back probe, let me see if I have something here. Nail polish is not good.
That's never recommended.
The electric grease no good anymore. I know where I got one.
I've seen ones you could put on mount on a battery and it's supposed to do some kind of stabilization. It looks like it's a heat sensor.
It looks like a resistor.
We use this to decrease the capacity of the PCM.
Okay, so here's if I back probe. See the weather pack? So on this oxygen sensor, if it's real dry and it won't go and we don't pierce the wire, wiggle, jerk, feel, and massage till we get it in there. If you got to go real hard, silicone. Silicone on this, go in, and it'll go in a lot easier. Does that make sense? You don't want to ruin that seal. And we work on vehicles that have miles on them. Cold, hot, salt. Well, maybe not in stupid California, okay?
Sand.
But here, in the real world, I always call this, my buddy's like, what do you need oxygen and acetylene for? Why do you need that mini duct? Because this is the real world where we get rust, right? And we got to heat stuff up or it ain't coming out. Make sense? So same thing with this. We need to use some silicone and take it from there. Put that on there. So what is this for? This is a 1 ohm, 10 watt resistor. Oh, he wasn't in here. Show him that weather pack. What's this for? Anyone know?
Some kind of
What is it?
resistance, like these there.
To deplete the capacity of the PCM.
Right. So, if you're going to use this, this is a 1 ohm, 10 watt resistor. If, like a computer, you got to reboot it once in a while, it's a brain fart. When you have something that's not running correctly, you're going to need to do what they call a computer reset. So you've all heard about when you have fuel trim problems, right? If fuel trim is not right. You had a bad fuel pump or a clogged fuel filter or whatever. And fuel trim numbers are, let's say, positive 15. What do you do when you're done with that repair? You got to reset fuel trim. Now, some scan tools don't have reset fuel trim. Let's say I'm just using my eScan which is great for drivability, but it has no bi-directional control. So I can't reset fuel trim. And if I want to reset my transmission adaptation, or any adaptations, what I need to do, okay, is I need to take the battery, both cables off. Don't be an idiot and do this. It's going to burn this up. Key off, or button off. Put this on. Now, dependent on the car, let's say I'm working on an A8 Audi or a Mercedes MLK, or one of the high-end ones with a lot of computers in it. Okay. What I need to do is basically, number one, do I have software that I can reset the idle? Do I have any seat memories? Because you can't put that memory pack that's charging up on the wall over there. The little yellow hook that's hanging next to the computer. You can't put that in because I need to bring all the capacitors down. Now, if I'm on a high-end car, we're going to leave it out there for hours. Because how many onboard computers with a 7 Series BMW or any high-end car, Land Rover, Range Rover, you may have 100. Now, sometimes there's computers inside computers. You may not have 100 different boxes, but you have multiple computers in one computer that's still a separate computer. They have capacitors inside computers. You need to bring that voltage down to drain all that so the memory goes into what they call fast relearn. Fast relearn will get you sometimes even monitors that will not run because there's some sort of issue going on. That would basically, well, way before Mode 6 doesn't give you a reading, if your monitors are all reset, which this will do, you can't see any Mode 6 data that would be accurate. You see 0 zeros in Mode 6, we go over that in computer class and stuff, your monitors are not ready. Okay? So this is the puppy that you need to do reset. You're right on the wire, in case you don't know. Cool. Don't want you to trip and kill yourself.
Thank you.
Everyone understand why we would do this? But there is a risk. The risk is customer has a certain way their seat is. Radio codes, if it's a car with radio codes. Or how about the dreaded idle relearn like on Nissans or on Volvos? Even if you follow the scan tool that tells you, oh yeah, put this on, do that. One of the things that you don't know is a special procedure that if you don't follow it exactly, that reset on your favorite scan tool, no matter what brand it is, what color it is, ain't gonna work. Okay. That is for a drivability class. But I'm making you think what electricity does there, right? Any questions before we go and do voltage drop on that alternator? You first.
I was going to say, can't you just take both the terminal and put them together for like 15 seconds?
That's old school. Can you just drive an Oldsmobile?
No, you can't. You can do that, but there's some people that have burned out the radio model in GM.
First of all, you don't do that. You RTFI. No manufacturer for years, all the Euros did not want you to do that. When you do that, we talk about arcing, you're putting it together, you're arcing it. This slowly brings it down.
Well, the dealers asked me to do that. That's always.
Well, because the dealers do some stuff wrong. So, like something I just went over the other day. So we ordered an air conditioning compressor for, and you remember seeing this, for a Toyota hybrid, or actually it was for a Lexus, $2,900. Okay. So $2,900 because this thing has 2 wires going to it, has its own built-in inverter. It was ruined by some idiot putting the wrong oil into the system. Now every component in that car needs to be changed. The dealer, this is the dealer where we bought it from, sends us the wrong oil. Lucky we know that it has to take a certain oil. Non-conductive oil. Any PAG oil, you're done. pull them back up. Oh no, we use that all the time. No, get us this oil. That would ruin the whole system. If you run it, and this is not me, this is Toyota, Lexus, or any electric manufacturer of a compressor, one drop of PAG oil, you got to change the whole system. Now, if the guy really wants his car, sometimes without air conditioning in a vehicle, you live out his way where it's warm, you live in Arizona, you don't have air in your car, the air that circulates in the car will go through the ducting system and help cool the battery. If you don't have that cool air, you would have a problem. If you didn't have heat in the winter, you would have a problem. It's not optional. Now you get some other vehicles that use actual air conditioning to cool the battery. Not optional there either. The car will just die on you and you'll be up to sleep without that. Make sense? Any other questions? So we use this, but we got to know what we're doing, bringing it down. If you just touch terminals, you're going to off something. The capacitor is in there. This is a 1 ohm, 10 watt resistor. 1 ohm, 10 watt. It's in your book as well. We need to make sure we drop it down slowly. Now again, you speak to someone as brilliant as Bernie Thompson, and Bernie will give you a dissertation about an hour and a half worth. Nothing's ever quick with my buddy because he's such a genius. But we found on most cars, if it's not, like this car may have maybe 10, 15 computers, whatever, okay? You probably just needed about 15 minutes to maybe an hour. So we usually do, the higher end car, or even if it's one of these, we're going to pull it outside, put this on it, we're not going to tie the bay up. And then we'll go and then put it back on and see what goes on. Many times the reboot, when it doesn't know what the hey it's doing, clears everything up just like your computer. Any other questions?
You asked me to remind you to do some sort of fitment
I was
test.
just going to do that. I was staring at it.
Okay.
I felt your eyes on it. Just grab this.
Right? Standing all day. I guess we've been sitting all day.
Okay, couple of
I've
things.
been standing all day.
One, here's the stable and stuff.
You know what that stuff costs a gallon? I think it's $1,000 a gallon.
This is like, you might as well have the white powder. Probably cheaper. This stuff here, usually is a Q-tip. Yep, there's one down still left, but I got a lot in my box. This goes on the male pin only. So this is like liquid gold. And if you get this out of Canada, it will come in, and you'll probably see a line up here. There's probably some sort of a line, I can't see what it is. That'll tell you you have to mix X amount to X amount. What's that say on that side? No reason. Oh, okay, so it's basically telling you the mixture. So this, you're going to need not 70 or 80%, you're going to need like 99% pure alcohol. You get it in the condensed version. It usually comes like on a certain line. You put it in, you mix it up, you're ready to rock and roll. So this is to enhance the contact, right? This stuff is D5 stuff. This is going to clean terminals up real good. This is a cleaner, not a contact enhancer. Now you can buy some of the stuff online, made in the USA. You may want to contact your Napa, your CarQuest, your O'Reilly's to start carrying some of this. They all carry stable in 22. Just crazy money. A little bottle is now $85 to $90. I could buy that whole thing for half that. Oh, yeah. So when I was telling my students up in Canada, and back then, I think I was paying 70 something. And they said, what? For that little bottle? So the guy goes, you know what? Give me your email. I'm going to send you some info. And he did. So you can do that. You remember to email me at some point. I'll find out where you can get it. And you can do that. I think the last time I bought it, I bought like 4 bottles of it. So we're good for a bit, especially any body shop work or whatever. The other thing here is, see this? 4-man's pressure transducer. All right? A good GM brand map sensor. A vacuum hose, and usually the shorter the hose, the better. We usually leave this on, and I have other hoses, but this will get onto most cars. 3 wires. So hold up, please. You got positive. That's my 5 volts. You got negative. Here's where you're going to have to put your scope lead on right here, on this negative. Not chassis negative, because this is a whole different circuit, correct? And here, you're going to put your scope lead on. And when you hook this, this becomes a vacuum transducer. But you need this little box. It's called a project box. There is a 9-volt battery with a 5-volt, 9-volt to 5-volt regulator in there, and a switch, and an LED. So put your meter on, please. Let's show them how you can do that. Now you got a 4-man's pressure transducer, or I can power up a map sensor, a throttle position, anything with 5 volts. So negative is going to go here, and go on. Where's the no?
Up top.
Go on that.
Got somebody below.
And what voltage reading are we at? 3 volts. Why don't you do some sucking? If you suck or blow on that, it's going to make a difference and show you that you can test your signal out. Like GM says, with 18 inches of vacuum, you need to take the reading of voltage. Key on, engine off, you need to take the reading and subtract it to see if you fall into the calibration zone. So even him playing with it like that,
Makes it hard.
it's changing it. Everyone understand? So what you can do with something like this, right? Make sense? Any questions?
No vacuum, more voltage.
More vacuum, less voltage. No vacuum, you have roughly a little under 5 volts. That's because in here, you're going to drop it down a little bit. You have 5 volts coming out of this box.
So let's say you have like Bob Marley on the end of that thing. Would it like go to 0?
He's token the pipe.
Oh, he's the Bob, I got it now. It's getting late.
Bobby Brown joke this morning.
Oh shit!
I thought
Can't hear it.
no, in the text message, I was like, it looked like Whitney
Okay,
so
so
Bobby
now
Brown dropped the stash
You
outside.
can go to AES Wave and get something like this.
I got
And here's that variable pot.
Oh,
These
yeah,
things
we were
seem to
talking.
always break. Now they don't even carry it. This is a Mako kit, but the AES Wave is really good.
Yeah,
So you don't like that variable resistor box, but these are really made cheap.
That's one of those, and I guess I'm LED that they would skip it like that.
It's just
So,
a rheostat for resistance.
This thing here, I'm not a big fan of that part, but I gotta say, the rest of the kit,
So I will drop you guys like one of the most unknown secrets right now in the industry. Go to carcertifiedtools.com and you will get a kit that's a little bit higher quality than that for like $130.
What's it called?
Carcertifiedtools.com.
make sure you give me that so I can buy another kit.
Yeah.
By the way, I have a whole bunch of kits,
Oh, I bet.
because you never have enough wires. I got the old original SPX one that was GM certified. I got the other one from the company out of Ohio. I forgot the name of it. That I probably have like 5 kits.
Okay.
But why do you need 5?
Car Certified Tools.
Because you have more than 5 cars.
Rock Auto.
In case you want to check it more than once.
No, backstory on them. They used to be, or they're the original owners and creators of Power Probe. They sold that company, started this one for the brake bleeder lines and stuff. And they made these, but they can't sell them in the diagnostic space due to like non-disclosure agreement stuff and conflict of interest.
Yeah.
So they're selling it as for brake service.
Oh shit.
and it's the full kit. And I don't know, it was like 130. Did they go back up or no?
No, they got the 245.
240. Okay, well I'll hit you guys up with the code.
So how long has Kirian been around? But it's just
We have been around as a company about 5 years, but our team has been in the industry building and designing products for the last 10, 12 years, launching them globally. Well, we'll talk later.
Because like I said, I never heard of Kirian before.
Yeah, no worries.
And when I signed up for class, I Googled it. I said, like, is Kirian a person? And it's like, oh, okay, never mind.
So this one has more than the AES wave?
Looking
So,
at this,
depending on the kit.
looking at this, when you look at this blade, normally when we have a flat blade, you're only going to have 2 marks where all the current flows. Okay? So when you look at this, you think when you put it in here, you're getting a 100% of that whole flat blade that's doing it. You're not. You're only getting 2 little lines that. So pass that around. Look at the straight marks on it. And by the way, this is a drag test. If I don't have some resistance here, I was working on a school bus with an Allison transmission that sometimes would shift, not shift. Checked everything, and sometimes when you back broke something, what do you just do? You made it tighter, right? So then I'm like, I don't see the problem. When my scope was hooked up. When it wasn't hooked up and the back probe pin wasn't there, it didn't. So I started doing a drag test. If you don't have some sort of drag and it just slides out, you got a problem. Okay. You may need to put new ends on or whatever to make sure it's tight. You don't want to just be sliding around. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. So before we let you go in about 12 minutes or so, we're going to do some voltage drop on that alternator and ask you if you have any questions, and we'll be here tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning. And today you got your full time, man, without a break, so we didn't lose anything. And thank you for coming out. Be careful driving back. There may be icy patches. Remember, when it's not a school day, they never, ever clean the roads as well. So just be careful driving. Don't go too fast. Leave yourself room in front of people. You're going to have to drive, right? Any questions on this? Okay. Let's get a meter lead on the positive side of that alternator to the positive plug on that alternator.
Guess I'll be the monkey again.
A couple months ago, the go up here from the car, so when you start right on the battery light, and they had about a 10 volt voltage drop from the power side of the
Pardon,
battery.
hey,
I'm working on getting you guys a big discount code on that right now.
Hey, Jerry. G,
Yes.
you want AC or DC voltage?
You're doing DC, you're going to do a voltage drop.
Okay.
But while you said that, that's another test you want to do. And if someone could please remind me, we want to do, with the meter at the battery, AC charging voltage and DC charging voltage.
It's the same price as I think the AES company.
Okay, so he is at the positive post of the alternator, and he's here at the positive post of the battery. Hey, Josh, you want to get this on camera?
Absolutely. Trying to get these guys a deal on that shit.
Okay. But if you want to get this, before we leave, you can call them afterwards, or I'm cleaning up.
100%.
So we gotta start the vehicle up. Watch your hands, watch the wire near your fan.
Yep.
So pull that wire up.
Oh, yep, I got you.
You don't want to ever get hurt.
That wire
Oh
tight
yeah,
there.
sure.
So he's at the positive post of the battery, positive post of the alternator. This is not a voltage drop test yet until we start it up and let it run.
Ready?
Yeah, send it.
Yep.
Ready?
Yep.
Yep, go ahead. So it looks like we have 300 and something millivolts voltage drop. Either he's not connected real tight, or we got a problem because the maximum should be what?
Now it's down to 70.
Oh, now it's down to 7. Okay, it's probably just him here. Let me hold this.
I
one.
had to scratch the case a little bit.
Well, you don't want to scratch the case. You want to be on the positive lead.
Where the lead, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. So right here, we got
240.
240.
It's rising.
It's probably because he's not on it. We'll give it a little bit. Now let's do the negative. We're going to switch leads. Negative to the most negative. Positive to the case. So be careful. Do not go in any of the holes. Scratch the case. What do we got there? 60 something? Okay, so we got a better ground than a power. Now, whether it's some corrosion in the cable or whether it is at the connection of the alternator or him just not doing this. Look, when we go in, we want to do this. You see how I'm making a mark right here? He's on the alternator negative right now.
Okay,
But when we did this, let's try it one more time and do a scrape in. This is the positive side voltage drop. What are we at now? Still pretty bad reading?
350, 390.
All right, so we got some poor connection.
Now it's down to 30.
Right, 60, 70. Yeah.
Oh, so
probably
most
just the
likely
moving.
it's just him. Okay.
Yeah.
Put that boot back on and let me have that lead up here. While we have this running, here's a test you do real quick on a car. Number one, someone hold that lead. I'll hold this lead. You're on DC volts. How much voltage we got? We have 1 volt overcharging voltage. Okay.
14.4.
Now, what's the next step you're going to do? You want to see AC ripple.
Grab the 1500.
So, no, we're going to do AC ripple. We're going to take this and go to AC voltage. How much AC voltage am I reading?
20 milli.
Someone hit the high beams on us. How much you got? On and off.
50, 60.
Oh, a lot higher, right? So if you have all the loads on, put the rear defroster, put the AC, put all that. Watch what happens to the reading. Where are we at? Someone yelled the numbers out, please.
It's bouncing around. It went to 20, went to 116, now it's down to 28.
You see? So yes, when you put loads on, you're going to spike up. You're checking the alternated diodes here, gentlemen. That's what we're doing. That make sense? So he has a good system here. You can turn the loads off. But when you turn them on and off, that's what you're going to get.
So it's like it's a 55.
Yep. And then it'll settle down.
That'd be 24 milliamps, 23 milliamps.
No, there's no volts.
Millivolts. We're on AC voltage.
Okay.
So AC rides on DC. There's a DC battery, but we see AC. Why? Why am I seeing this, Byron? How can I see AC on a DC battery?
Because it's the alternator, the diodes.
The diodes are not sucking everything up. The diodes cannot clean everything up. And what was the maximum AC voltage, Ray?
I thought I saw 26.
No. Maximum for specification.
Oh, 200 millivolts.
What do you think?
Oh, it's 200 millivolts for this one.
What do you think?
For the non-computer?
No, it's not voltage drop. I'm talking about maximum AC voltage.
500.
500. Okay. Now again, you guys are making a mistake. Don't feel bad. You're going to have to sticky note it, and every time you walk to the box, you're going to get the stuff in your head where you know it inside out. Okay. So now we're going to do one last thing before we call it a night. I'm going to move this battery charger over, and I'm going to show you how to test your battery charger for ripple. So I'm going to go that way, just give you a clear path. Watch that, watch that, watch that. Shut the car off.
I've seen this much of since I owned it.
Plug this into the outlet over there.
2 Dodge Dakotas, it costs about 13 miles a gallon. And now gave me this thing, and this thing gets like 30 miles a gallon. I'm like, California, I'm actually restoring it. I bought them 2 years old, and I was restoring it because she was not wanting to get rid of it.
Negative, positive. We're going to put this on. We're going to see the polarity. Now they got a newer one. A newer one is over there. We may use it tomorrow or whatever. That actually, this is a maintainer and a charger. Someone get their meter on that battery right now. AC volts. So now I'm on charge and I'm going to hit, it's a flooded battery. I got proper continuity. And this thing should start putting out a lot. Hear it? So now we're amperage, we're at, it's putting out about 10 amps right now. So we're on millivolts AC. We're only at 80. This is a good charger. If you you start putting out more than a couple of hundred millivolts, excuse me, we're at 73.
What do you think a partial would be like more than 200 millivolts? Is that
Couple of hundred, but this is on charge. Watch when I put it on maintain. This is like if I'm programmed. Look how low I drop. That's a good charger. Now, if you did this with your scope, you could do the same thing.
Now, even let's say, for example, you know when you're programming, you might have a load come on. Sometimes you'll have.
Doesn't matter. This is maintaining that.
It won't.
Not affected. This is putting AC voltage out, but at a minimum. So when you go back to your shop, if you put out more than 200 millivolts, and even that's a lot, on maintain, it's not a good battery charger or maintain. Okay. These smart chargers, this is Associated, does a great job. You could buy this one. Their new one is probably about $1,200, but it does higher amperage output for programming, and it's all computerized, which is a lot nicer. But you can still get these things street value for somewhere in the $700 range, maybe a little less. These are good chargers, made in the USA. My guys have left it out in the rain, and it still works. They actually, in Vegas, they have this in a seal type of plexiglass container with water going on it. Still works. U.S. military uses it.
I use them at Penske when I used to work there. That's all they use for like the heavy duty batteries.
Yeah, usually Associated is in a lot of governmental agencies, and it's a good charger. I mean, you know, Medtronics is also good. I'm not going to say they're not. It's expensive. These guys are more reasonably priced. We have one in each bed. And you could also, on this, you see this plug here? I can put this on. You see the little light? I can run this to my OBD2 connector. Okay, plug it in and actually charge up from the OBD2 connector. So, good setup. Any questions on checking your AC voltage? You guys think you learned a few more things today?
Yeah.
Good. How about you? Did you learn anything?
Maximum AC voltage.
Did you learn anything?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what do you want? AC
Yeah,
voltage?
the maximum
Thinking,
AC
not listening.
was it
Maximum 200 millivolts AC, not at, this is from the charger.
not
We're
for
not
voltage,
talking about maximum AC voltage at the alternator putting out from diodes is 500,
Okay.
half a volt. Okay. So again, a little lesson in trying to absorb information. And I know this is hard. I'm not doing it to break the balls. If you're constantly thinking of a question when I'm talking, you ain't going to get it. Because your brain's going, I got to ask you more questions. Stop doing that. That's a poor way of learning. Listen. When I'm done, go, hey, I got a question. Write it down if you can't, if your brain doesn't think that way. Again, I see a lot of people in adult education. It's not like your kids in school. I kind of know what works and doesn't work. Not because I'm some stupid genius. I just see enough people. And I can tell who absorbs it and who doesn't. Okay. Tomorrow, the last day you have with me, I'm going to run you through. I'm going to ask you a hell of a lot of questions. You better get it. Okay. And if you don't, when you go home, that's okay. Not everyone's going to get it. We're at different levels. He did very well because he was the empty sponge. The rest of you think sometimes you know more than you know. And I know that same problem sometimes happens to me. I have to shut down and listen to someone else. If I'm listening to Bernie, I shut off. Now later on I may go, I'm never doing it that way. But the guy knows a lot of stuff. And I beta test all his tools. So I know that this guy makes some good stuff. I just made some tweaks. He has a new coil on plug adapter. Because the other one I told him, sorry Bernie, it sucks. Okay, it's a new ECOP setup, works really good. We used it, Pierre and I were doing a webinar. We used it in the webinar, with Motor Age. We used it in the Motor Age. So, he takes criticism if something is wrong and can't be 100% at everything. But it's nice to work with a tool company that takes your feedback, including Associated. You plug this older one in the wall, you hear the fan going. So I went, why the hell is the fan going if I don't have the charger on? Oh, you need air going through it. So Kim is the owner of the company. And I said, Kim, your engineer's on drugs or something. And the guy's really smart. I don't want to hear the thing running when I'm not on. I may think I'm charging the battery, but I'm not. The new one, fan ain't on unless you charge. I said, now you finally got it right. 3 models later, you did it. Okay, and then they're retrofitting all the ones that they're making in this model, whatever the model number is, to do it. So it's nice when a company kind of listens. Many companies don't do feedback. We're off on this, I hope. No?
It's still on.
It's still on? Could we mute something?
Sure.
I don't want to have hate mail.
Well, are we done with
Yeah,
all?
we're done.
Okay.
We're done.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.